Hello once again. Cathar Unconditional Love 31. Gnosticism Explained Part 3. Gnosticism is all about a journey, even if it's a journey without a particular destination. For instance, if we are immortal, then there can't be an ending to the journey. If we're eternal. So the journey is very, very important, possibly more important than the destination. So Gnosticism, it's a process, but Gnosticism itself has its own journey. It goes back into antiquity, ancient times, Egypt, the mystery religions of Greece, and it was bubbling, and people have this idea of an origin, a creator that always existed, rather than the pantheon of gods that the religions had at that time. The same thing happened in China with Lao Tzu, the Tao. We called it Tao because it always existed, it was always there, it was the source, the origin of everything. They're both the same. In the West, of course, we had, with Socrates and Plato, we had this idea also of an artificer, a demiurge that created our universe. It was a divinity, a breakaway light that came and so Gnostic thought is a process, a developmental process, if you like, going right through to the present time. In the West, it went through the Renaissance, and then right through to modern times. Possibly the most notable Gnostic of modern times would have to be Carl Jung, but even he kept the Gnostic side of his belief away from the public, because he didn't feel comfortable with people knowing that he had Gnostic ideas. In fact, the whole of psychology is based on Gnostic thought. On the other side, we had Gnosticism, which influenced Judaism, Islam, Christianity, Paul, and there was a young Persian in Babylonian. He was born in Babylonia, but it was ruled by Persia, called Mani. He belonged to a sect which was a Gnostic, Judeo, John the Baptist type sect. But anyway, he broke away from that, or he was exiled or expelled, because he fell in line, or he related to Paul's teachings at the time, Saint Paul. But he created his own religion, and it was basically a religion where the powers of light were in conflict with the powers of darkness, and that we needed a personal journey of understanding to understand these two powers. This particular belief system appealed to both high and the low, and he travelled to Turkestan, northern India, right across to western China, where Mani influenced Buddhism and Taoism to some degree, but they certainly influenced Mani, and the idea of being a vegetarian, with the Buddhist ideas with that, meditation. With Taoism, we had the source, the origin, that there always was an origin. So these belief systems intermingled, commingled, and they headed back through the Silk Road, all these ideas, belief systems, philosophies were heading backwards and forwards at that time. They headed back over the so-called Silk Road, back to the Balkans, back to Europe. And in the Balkans, they influenced the Paulicians and the Bogomils and people in that area. They in turn, missionaries or people, went from there to northern Italy and to France, and there we have the Catharism, the Cathars. So the Cathars were the final, the epitome of all this process, and it also explains how the ideas of Buddhism, that the Cathars were the Cathar perfecta, were vegetarians. They didn't kill any living thing, apart from they ate fish. So you can see how this Gnosticism, it's a journey, a process, an evolvement, which continues today. Because we have science and the things that we're also finding out at the moment. But always there is this origin, this creator. There's a creator of the universe. We are perfecting our lives, we're learning, we have a personal journey, each of us, our own responsibility to ourselves. But within that, there's a oneness. We are all caught up with each other. So we have our responsibility to ourselves, but at the same time, we recognize the oneness of the universe. And of course, we're perfecting our lives over lifetimes of reincarnation. Now, it seems a pleasant enough philosophy. I mean, we're certainly not doing any harm to anybody. But, on the other hand, great harm was done to the Gnostics. I mean, right through. Socrates, for instance, he was told, because he asked he was instructing the youth of Athens to think for themselves, not just not take what anybody tells you, but to think about it and come to a conclusion and see if you're in that situation, would you not do that situation yourself if you're put in that same situation? So the state, with the backing of the priests, they suggested he take poison and do away with himself. He didn't object, because he said, if the world beyond is a better world, so what's the problem with dying? He said, I'm happy to go. So he had his friends around, he drank the poisoned hemlock, and he departed. Mani, who the messenger of light, as he's sometimes called, he was born in 216 AD, and then he travelled. He came back to Persia, and unfortunately there was a new king, and he had these Zoroastrian priests, the Magi, the three Magi that were supposed to have adored Christ when he was born. They're supposed to be Zoroastrian priests. Anyhow, the priest didn't like Magi, didn't agree with him, and he debated theology with them for a few days, 4 days or something, and he was imprisoned, and then they flayed him alive, which means they skinned him alive. Not a very nice way to go. So, but it's always some state or mainly religious group which is persecuting, torturing, killing the Gnostics. I don't think there's a single instance of a Gnostic or any group of Gnostics that have ever gone out and made war against anybody, religious or otherwise. It's a one-way street. Why? Gnostics seem harmless enough. I mean, we're going in to understand ourselves, gain self-respect, self-understanding, self-love. With that, the more loving we are, that we're going to be to other people, making the world a better place in that respect. And we realise that we can't do it in one lifetime. We'll need different lifetimes to achieve this perfecting our lives. So, but the big thing is, of course, that it's personal. You're doing it for yourself. You're taking responsibility for yourself. So you're taking the responsibility away, and the power and the control away from, well, not so much the state, but from religious groups. And because religion is very much about control. We want followers. Each religion wants as many followers as they possibly can. They need to dictate how they think, how they live their lives, and that's okay. I mean, most people belong to religion, so obviously they must like their religion for them to belong to it. So that's their business. We're quite happy, Gnostics or any other group, not much Gnostics, people who want to understand and know about themselves. We're happy for people to belong to whatever they want to belong. But we would like to be left alone as well, you know. But anyway, times have changed. It's a period of communication, and knowledge of any type can be disseminated. Knowledge is the key. Now, we realize with religious groups, often there's good and there's evil over here, and often they're portrayed as a good God, and there's the devil or the demons and so forth. To a Gnostic and to others, the goodness, or capacity for goodness, is within ourselves, and the capacity for negativity, evil, is also within ourselves. So if there are any devils or demons, it's sitting in here somewhere within that. They're the devils within us, from our point of view. Because you can journey up in the Himalayas, you can journey to the desert, you can journey to any forest, and believe me, there's no demons going to attack you. Now, there may have to be a lion or a tiger or some wild animal which may attack you, but that's just nature being nature. They're looking for a meal. They're not attacking you. They're not a demon attacking you with any evil intent. So we realize that goodness and evil, we have the capacity for both, and it's in here. The Gnostic is trying to turn inwards to the light, which is not looking at a particular light, but is turning into light of love, compassion, all the good things. This is the area of light. The area of darkness is the negative side of life. Jealousy, anger, rage, all these particular things. Control, all this materialism. So this is the area of darkness. So we're literally trying to move towards perfecting our lives. But with that, doing that and doing away with this, it does give you, it does empower you. It certainly liberates you. It certainly frees you up. But let me illustrate this with a story. A psychologist, and this has nothing to do with Gnosticism, because moving in and understanding ourselves, self-understanding, self-awareness, self-respect, it's Gnostic, but it's to do with anybody. It's good for anybody to do that and to move towards their higher selves, their higher consciousness. This is a good move by anybody. It's just that the Gnostics do that, but there are others, of course, who do that. And there's this psychologist. He started a group called Hoa, which means cause, and Ponopono, which means perfection. This is the Hawaiian language. So I suppose that means cause perfection. But he says, that you journey in, and he has a mantra, and basically it says that the whole idea is that the universalness of everything, the oneness of everything. We are all interconnected. You see that person who's drunk and he's in there, but you're connected to that person. This might be a suicide bomber. We're all connected, no matter who we are. Sick people, happy people, loving people. There's this oneness about the entire universe and about each other. And he was a psychologist, and he actually was put in charge of the the part of the Hawaii State Hospital, the section for the criminally insane. And some people were chained up to stop them attacking the other inmates. And it was a terrible place. People disliked to work there. They couldn't keep psychologists there because it was a pretty horrific place. But what he did, and there was about 35 patients, 32 patients, I don't remember exactly how many were there. But what he did, he looked at the patient's records, personal records. And then, knowing this, knowing the background about the patient and knowing the patients, because he's working with them, he took it upon himself that patient, he's there, but that patient is a part of him. So that patient's crazy sickness is also a part of the crazy sickness he has within himself. So he said, and it's interesting, he said, I'm sorry, I forgive you, I love you, and I'm grateful. They were the four, call it a mantra or affirmations, that he spoke. But when he did that, he was specifically looking at that particular person and taking that that negativity, that sickness, whatever you want to call it, that person had, and he was taking it as a part of himself. So he was saying that to, I forgive you, I love you, I'm sorry, I'm grateful. So this was a part of the oneness. But what actually happened? Those people, each of them, in a quite, I can't give you the actual time, but over a period of time, they got off their medication, they started walking around the hospital. He cleared the entire ward with no medication. Just by doing that, by recognizing that, and the 32, 35 people that were there, incarcerated, some chained, everybody, they just progressed, and they got better and better and better. You can check on YouTube or things like that, because it's there for you can read far more details about it. But now, I don't think he would consider himself a Gnostic. I got no idea what the psychologist Hewlen, Hewlen, is his name. But this is so it's not necessarily Gnosticism. It's a way to live. It just happens to be a Gnostic way. Now others have that as well. So this idea, the oneness of the universe, is an island in the middle of the Pacific in Hawaii. So it's a universal. This idea of oneness, the idea of the oneness of the universe, the idea of the oneness of all of us, and how that person there. And also another thing is, which is I think is interesting. If you see somebody, and there's somebody you don't like, who's a bit crazy, who's acting crazy, or maybe he's drunk, or maybe whatever, there's something that's wonderful or something that's terrible. What you're not actually seeing that person, you are seeing your reaction to that person. Because another person sees the same thing, and he's seeing his or her reaction to that situation or that person, which may not necessarily be yours. So, because what that person is doing, in a loving way or a nasty way, we have within ourselves the capacity to do that. So we are reacting to that person, because we could imagine subconsciously or consciously that we could be in that same situation, and in fact if we went through the same situation that person went through, we might be exactly like that person. So we're not seeing that person, because in that person, that person, no matter how nasty it was, at once that was a little boy or a little girl, and as innocent as you or I at that time. Now something's happened in that person's lifetime that's caused that to happen. So, but this Hewlen, the psychologist, because of his background, his Hawaiian background, he recognized the oneness of us all, and he didn't have that person over there. He looked at that person as somebody within himself, and he came up with I love you, I'm sorry, I'm grateful, I forgive you. Not necessarily in that order, but that was the situation. So Gnosticism is a journey, is a process, and we know we have many lifetimes to accomplish that. And it's a journey ultimately that gives us, the wonderful thing about it is, it gives us liberation, it gives us freedom, it gives us release from so much of the materialistic and not so very nice aspects of the world. It puts us to another level. We transcend, we transform to another level. It's enough for today. Bye for now.